Good evening from the Big Weather Guy channel. We're going to go over a little bit of the weather and what things are setting up to look like for tonight through tomorrow for the Central Plains up into the Midwest, looking at a fairly robust storm system. And that's going to bring some severe weather to Texas, Oklahoma, and some incredibly strong winds and snow up into the plains, Central Plains, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, and on up into Minnesota and Wisconsin tomorrow. Looking at today's weather map, you can see unsettled weather through most of the Central Plains, surface high pressure dominating the eastern half of the country, and a large low pressure system it's going to be causing quite a bit of trouble across the western half into the plains. If we take a look at the per air maps, so this is at 500 millibars height. So we're talking about 18,000, 20,000 feet up. You can see a very large, very strong trough over here over the Four Corners region with very strong winds coming around the base of that trough. And this is going to be the upper level storm system that really makes things interesting tonight through the plains and tomorrow through the southeast in terms of severe weather. And then up into the central plains tomorrow with winter weather and very strong winds. Fast forwarding to tonight, about midnight central, you can see that that storm system starts to move out of the Rockies into the plains, and you start to develop a closed low. Here again, this is still at 500 millibars height, and you get very strong wind, very strong jet, 100 knots or so, pushing out over the western high plains here, Texas Panhandle, western Kansas, western Oklahoma, and that'll be the catalyst that really starts to kick off the severe weather for tonight. Moving forward then to tomorrow morning about 6 a.m. Central, you can see that trough continuing to eject west, or sorry, to eject east. Now it's centered over southern Texas, or central Texas, and really starting to push things up into the lower Mississippi Valley. Looking here at the surface, this is this afternoon's surface map, you can see a surface low pressure starting to develop here over eastern Colorado. That's in response to the upper level low that we were just looking at. And by midnight tonight, you see that low starting to translate east a little bit, starting to pull out of the Rockies into the Central Plains. And you can see the surface response of the winds, strong southerly winds across Texas, Oklahoma into Kansas, pulling that moisture up north into that low pressure. And you also start to see the strong response on the backside, the cold side of that low pressure, starting to pull air south out of the Dakotas into Nebraska. This is at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central. You can see that low really starting to crank up, and the response, strong southerly winds or northerly winds on the west and north side of that low. You can see the strong response here. Southeasterly warm flow into the mid-south, which will set the stage for severe weather there tomorrow night. So starting off though tonight here in Oklahoma and Texas, we have a pretty good chance of some severe weather starting late tonight, probably after 9 p.m., probably between 9 p.m. and midnight, in the form of some initially isolated cells here across western Oklahoma and far northwestern Texas that will quickly congeal into a squall line and march east throughout the night. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has upgraded their risk areas uh, from northwest of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro up through southern Oklahoma into the Oklahoma City area for the greatest chance of distinct severe weather. That would include tornadoes, severe winds, and the tornado risk is not zero, but there is a lot of wind here in the lower levels of the atmosphere that could produce quite a bit of severe winds and a non-zero chance of tornadoes. Now they have bumped up throughout the day. They've bumped up that tornado risk, introducing a 10 to 14% tornado area there again. That is coincident with the highest severe weather risk. And again, this is going to be late tonight, so we're looking at uh, anywhere from about midnight on, or maybe even 10 p.m. on, to see the initiation of the worst of these storms. And then they will march east through tomorrow morning across northern Texas and most of Oklahoma. And again, also a very distinct chance of severe winds from that squall line. If there aren't tornadoes, there will definitely be some severe strong winds. Let's take a quick look at some of the forecasted radar from some of the high resolution models. This is showing at 9 p.m. tonight, uh, starting to hint that initiation of the storms may begin a little earlier than originally thought. This is way out near the Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle area, starting up again 9 p.m. Central. Could see initiation out in that region. Moving on to midnight, you start to see a much more distinct line of cells starting to congeal. Um, but the greater risk here uh, towards central Oklahoma into southern Oklahoma and northern Texas is where you're going to see the greater risk of tornadic supercells or squall line tornadoes, QLCS tornadoes as they're called, just because of the amount of moisture and instability that is down there. They've had warmer weather today and definitely more moisture. So that's where the risk is a little bit higher than up here in northeast Oklahoma where we are. This is a 3 a.m. forecasted radar. You can see that line marching east, approaching I-35 between midnight and 2 a.m., starting to approach the Bartlesville area or Tulsa, Oklahoma City down here. They'll be in the midst of it by about 3 in the morning. And then the western regions of DFW Metro starting to get a look at it by 3 p.m. 3 a.m. and later. And then this is what the radar's forecast to look at like 6 a.m. You can see Tulsa Metro here, Bartlesville, Oklahoma City on the back end of it now, but DFW fully involved. And again, a little higher risk there for some rotation and distinct cells that may cause some trouble. And then here we are at 9 a.m. Things start to clear out of the DFW region and Tulsa region, but, and as we'll discuss a little later, that sets things up for the lower Mississippi Valley into the south for a very active, rough day tomorrow. Could be. There's still some question marks, but things are shaping up to be not good out there. If we take a look at the weather map for tomorrow, you can see here, this is that surface level that is starting to really crank up, producing strong response in terms of winter weather up here through the Central Plains into the Midwest. And then here is the severe weather region that is going to really pop off tomorrow afternoon. as that cold front really surges. Let's take a look a little bit up to the north at the winter weather. Yeah. Now, the weather service is not forecasting a tremendous amount of snow. There's not a very robust moisture source to really bring a lot of snow in. So there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. You can see the weather service at North Platte. It's really been uh, you know, a lot of question marks. Hey, what's the strongest band going to be up here from Ogallala to Mullen? It could be farther east, could be farther west. There's a lot of uncertainty there. However, what they are very confident in is that they're going to be incredibly strong winds. Now, these are the forecasted higher gusts um, out of the north and northwest. This is in response again to that surface low that's going to be tracking across Oklahoma and Kansas. So all that cold air being pulled very strongly down towards that low pressure. We're looking at gusts here, 60 approaching 70 miles an hour through central Nebraska into south central Nebraska. And of course, any bit of snow, 2 inches of snow with 60-mile-an-hour gusts will turn into a blizzard in no time. And they have actually started issuing blizzard warnings up here into Nebraska and winter storm warnings, trying to get ahead of what is a very, very robust situation, very strong wind. Any bit of snow will really cause trouble when you have this much wind. Looking, pardon me, looking farther south and east towards south central Nebraska, you can see they've got, again, blizzard warnings for much of western Nebraska. And you can see they've already got winter weather advisories up for central Nebraska and north central Kansas up into northeast Nebraska. Again, not looking for a lot of snow. Again, any bit of snow with the winds that they're looking at are going to produce blizzard conditions. And again, you're looking at sustained winds of 35 to 45 miles an hour and wind gusts of 55 to 65 miles an hour. Strongest winds will be Tuesday afternoon through Tuesday night. Moving our focus a little farther east into eastern Oklahoma and western Iowa, you can see they are forecasting a little higher amounts of snow out to this region, to 5 inches in Omaha, but pretty wide range, 2 to 5 inches, a little bit more up to the northwest and to the northeast of the Omaha region. But again, this is going to have very, very strong winds. Uh, you're looking at gusts for several hours of 50 to 70 miles an hour and sustained winds of 35 to 50 miles an hour. So any bit of snow is going to really cause trouble with visibilities and blizzard conditions. So very dangerous travel, obviously not advised tomorrow, but pay attention to your local National Weather Service and local media. Try to stay on top of things. But yeah, any little bit of snow with that much wind is gonna be a problem. And then looking again farther northeast up into the Midwest, a good amount of snow there south of the Twin Cities, through southeastern Minnesota, up into Wisconsin. Uh, could get as much as 8 to 10. We'll have to see. But again, strong winds. All right, looking then more towards tomorrow afternoon. This is noon tomorrow. You can see again at 500 millibars, that trough really starting to dig in, take on a little bit more of a negative tilt, what's called a negative tilt, and a really strong max, wind max here, rounding the base of this low, and a lot of defluence up here in the upper levels, and then really crushing in by 6 p.m. tomorrow. That'd be Tuesday evening at about 6 p.m. Central over this lower Mississippi. A lot for level support here. to produce very severe weather across the lower Mississippi Valley into the mid-south. And then looking again down at the surface, you see that strong surface low again by midday tomorrow over the Kansas-Oklahoma border region. Here's these strong, strong northerly winds really impacting through Kansas, Nebraska, and the strong southerlies pumping that moisture and instability from the Gulf into this region, setting the stage for severe weather tomorrow. And this is 6 p.m. tomorrow, 6 p.m. Tuesday. And looking at that low now cranking through Missouri, deepening as it goes, and really pulling those northerly winds. And then severe weather as a result in the mid-south. Going to take a quick look here at the severe weather outlooks. These are the day 2 outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center. The region that they've got highlighted for the most severe chances, it's basically this region here in the western part is more for tomorrow morning. This will be storms that are ongoing from overnight into tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow afternoon into the evening will be Shreveport, Little Rock, Jackson, and those areas where you have your highest chance of organized severe weather. Here's the tornado outlook. The highest 10 to 14 with a catch, so chances of significant tornadoes, strong tornadoes, for much of Louisiana, much of the southern half of Mississippi, and far southwestern Alabama is your highest chance. It remains to be seen how the storm modes, and that's something I'll discuss in a later lecture, on how storm modes affect whether you will get severe tornadoes or strong tornadoes. So there's still some question marks about that, but it depends a lot on what occurs overnight into tomorrow morning. That will set the stage to determine how bad it gets tomorrow evening across the lower Mississippi Valley. And again, also there's a high probability of some very strong winds, uh, damaging winds. But again, all the ingredients are there from a wind shear perspective to really have the possibility of some tornadoes and severe winds. Last but not least, I want to highlight one last thing. We know that with this strong low pressure system, you've got very strong winds coming from the north and down this far where it's so dry and relatively warm, and won't have the benefit of getting a lot of moisture. And with how dry the vegetation already is, we've got the Storm Prediction Center has started lying out that there's a very good chance of extreme and critical fire weather potential through central and western Texas up through the Panhandle. So bear in mind there, if you live in those areas, to be on the lookout with the strong winds, dry conditions, and it's certainly things could get bad there tomorrow from a fire standpoint. So always something to watch out for. Anyway, that'll do it for this discussion. I will try to send out a little bit of an update tomorrow once the Storm Prediction Center has a good handle on what things would look like tomorrow for the South. And other than that, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching.